Today, let's look at how to get the special contrasting stripe on the hem of this mid-gauge version of the EasyVT. The EasyVT design is covered entirely from beginning to end using the bulky version in a 4-video series. Most techniques are identical on the two, that is, the bulky and mid-gauge versions, but there are two differences. They are optional. You can stick with the techniques used in the bulky, or you can add these trims. The neckline trim is covered in its own video, and today we'll talk about working the stripe into the hemline. The hem begins by chain stitching around the number of needle shanks required, and then knitting 2 rows. These 2 rows are knitted at main stitch size plus 1 number, to make sure that they will be loose enough to make the curve eventually. That's already been done in this picture. Now bring the needles forward, trying to leave the stitches in the hooks of the needles so that we can work behind them, and we'll use the contrasting yarn to chain stitch all the way across behind the cast on and the first 2 rows. Here I'm using a thinner yarn, doubled, because that's what I had that was the color that I wanted to use. It's important to keep your chain stitches even and a little bit loose, because we need for this row of chain stitching to easily make the curve that will be created when we short row the hem. The short rowing will make the center longer than the edges. That's how we get the curvaceous hem, and it will mean that the cast on in the first few rows do have to stretch to make that curve. This design may be made in many yarns, but it was really designed with cotton in mind. As you probably know, all knitting tends to roll outward at the bottom edge, but cotton less than some others simply due to its weight. The addition of this chain-stitched stripe adds to that weight and further minimizes the tendency to roll. When the row of chain stitching behind the needles is complete, snip the yarn, let the tail drop down to be woven in later, bring all the needles forward so they can knit back from hold, and proceed with the pattern. Expect the first row to be stiff. Now that you know how to achieve it, you can add this chain stitch trim to any pattern really to get a slightly fresh look and also help with rolling. Have fun with this and also enjoy the companion video on making the neckline trim seam to match the hem.